As we start our journey into making a walk cycle with our 3D puppet of our cool little ball character here, I think it's important that we refresh our memories and review the key poses of a walk cycle. We're very lucky in the sense that the walk cycle is a pattern that is kind of almost defined. We all share a very similar set of poses as we walk through, no pun intended, the creation of our walk cycle. Let's load in some reference. I've given you guys a great little reference image in the bundle of things and our materials. And also, please make sure you review all the stuff that we've explored in Animation 301. And of course, the textbook that we used in that class continues to be the ultimate visual resource on all of this. Let's load in an object here real fast. I'm going to go to the Add pull-down menu at the top of the screen. And under the Image section, let's just do Reference. I'm going to choose the Walk Cycle Poses Overview. And you know what I'm going to do. See how it comes in at an angle? Yeah, that's not going to work for me. I'm going to look at my scene from the right, okay? If you hit the 3 key on the number pad, excuse me, I misspoke. We want to look through our scene through the left. The 3 key is always going to show you the right view, which isn't what I want. My reference is everything is kind of flipped the other direction in our reference images, so we're going to make it easy. Here's a great way of changing your view over to look through the left. And if you hold down the Control key and hit the 3 key in your number pad, now you're looking through the left. If you're not working on a computer that doesn't have a numpad on your keyboard, you can hit the little negative X sign in your 3D compass, and that will get you over there. Now, when we import in our reference image, it won't be rotated because it's going to be locked to this orthographic view of our 3-dimensional scene. There we go. Yeah, see how it's kind of in line now with our character? And that's just going to make it a little bit easier for us as we continue to manage this entire process. All right, there we go. Now that we got an image in here, let's take a look at some of the really important parts behind this entire walk cycle itself. The walk cycle is broken into a whole series of very defined poses. We're going to be making a standard 24-frame walk cycle, and it's an entire cycle, so meaning that we're going to have the left foot go forward, then the right foot go forward, and then we're going to start the left foot going forward again. So one entire loopable walk cycle. The intention, like we've done in the past, is to create these 24 frames, then ask the computer to repeat it 1,000,000 times and have it seamlessly transition or loop as it goes through those 24 frames. We're going to be animating and keying 1, 4, 7, 10, all these keyframes all the way up to 25. And that's kind of an odd thing considering that I just said that this is a 24-frame walk cycle, but we're going to be placing keyframes all the way up to frame 25. The reason we put them on 25 is so that we have something on frame 24 that matches frame 1. Frame 1 and 25 are legitimately carbon copy clones of each other. If we have a keyframe on frame 24, we're going to have something to shoot towards on frame 25. It's just going to be a little bit easier for us to manage. And then at the end of the day, we'll get rid of frame 25 or only tell the computer to loop frames 1 through 24. That's an easy thing for us to change here in the computer. Now, each one of these poses plays a very, very specific role. Like we did before, we're going to throw all of our energy onto the first handful, 1, 4, 7, 10, and 13. These are the primary ones that we want to draw all of our energy towards because the front half, as one might imagine, is identical to the back half. And we're going to try to make this a uniform walk cycle. So each kind of stride, if you will, this is the first stride over here. And then this on the back half from 13 to 25, that's the second stride. This is a nice tempo walk cycle. This is 13 frames per step, not per cycle, but per step. And 13 frames for a step, yeah, it's kind of a nice kind of average walk cycle. We're not walking fast. We're not taking our time and walking really slow. We're just kind of like, this is the speed in which you'd walk to the bus station or walk out to your car or walk, anywhere, just kind of your regular standard speed. The tempo is kind of nice, and it gives us a good structure that we can work with. This is a good place to begin. Let's take a moment here and just kind of review and remind ourselves the purpose of all of these poses because they really do have an important role to play. 1, 13, and its friend 25 are all called the contact pose. And this contact pose establishes the total stride length. If you look very carefully at the drawing here, this is the furthest our feet are going to be apart from each other. This is the furthest this character is going to walk within one stride itself. It's also called the contact pose because the feet are touching the ground at the exact same time here. Not the case when compared to other poses inside of our sequence. This one also starts to define the middle location of our hips. If you look very carefully at the hips here, it creates a natural wave pattern as it goes through 1 all the way to 25. At the hips, this is the middle part. This is not where the hips are the highest, and it's certainly not where the hips are the lowest. The highest is going to be over here on frame 10. To create a wave, we have to create both the trough of the wave, the bottom of the wave, and the peak of the wave. 1, 13, and 25 kind of represent that middle part of the wave. Something to kind of zero in on as we start to define the function and the location of the hips in our 3D walk cycle. 4 and 16 are called they're called the down poses. The down poses are where the hips are the furthest down. That's the name, down pose. If you look carefully at the way that we're posing our character here, we got a good, nice, strong, stable foreground foot, a nice bend on the knee on the foreground. This is where we're planting the foot. If you look carefully at the foreground foot, the white foot in my drawings, on 4, 7, and 10, this white foot, it doesn't go anywhere. This is where we plant the foot and it stays, and it kind of transforms itself into a pivot foot as our hips move forward, and this dark gray foot then takes the step itself. The background foot, the toe is on the ground. It's a good little bit of a kind of a landmark, if you will, and we're getting a tremendous amount of flex. In every sense, on the down pose, the background foot is preparing to take the step in this movement. Now, as we go from the down pose, we go into what's called the passing pose here on frame 7. The passing pose is named as such because this is where that background foot, in our case the dark gray one, is passing forwards, passing the plant foot here on frame 7, the white one. So it's passing forward. Look at the knee. Look at the distance the knee is traveling between frame 4 on the down pose and the passing pose. It's quite a significant step here because this is where the foot is, the entire leg is rotating forward to give us the illusion that we're about to take the step. On frame 10, this is the peak pose. And as one might imagine, if we have a down, which represents the furthest the hips are in our movement arcs, the peak pose is the highest the hips are going to be located in our movement arc. This entire pose, in my opinion, is all about energy. This is where we create that forward sense of movement in the character itself. Look at the knee. Doesn't move too much further away from where it was at the peak, but the foot is rotating forward. We're preparing to plant this foot now. So it gives us a great sense of energy. The plant foot, the heel is off the ground in this moment. It's almost like this paddle as it springs us forward. And it springs us forward into that contact pose. Feet are now, once again, stable on the ground. We're pretty unstable here on the peak because we only have 1 foot off the ground and we're leaning forward. Same with on the passing, 1 foot on the ground, but generally stable. So we're unstable and then we go back to stable. We find that kind of confidence again in our location. Now all of these poses are then duplicated on the back half. If you look at the structure here on 3, 16, 19, 22, and 25, they are identical in form and function. Just the other foot is now kind of doing the job. On 13 and 25 are our contact, 16 is our down, 19 is the passing, and 22 is the peak. All of these have the exact same function, just the other foot is planted. In the previous section, the white foot, the foreground foot, was the one that was planted on the ground. Now, on the back half of the animation, the white foot is the one that's in movement, and the dark gray foot is the one that is planted on the ground itself. So these are the core poses of our walk cycle. These are terms and vocab, if you will, that you'll see in any animation studio around the world. That almost all walks, runs, and basic human locomotion are going to use the terms contact, down pose, passing, peak. These are terms that define a very specific function within inside the cycle itself and within inside humanoid movement that we can't ignore. And we want to start to adopt and welcome warmly into our collection of animation terms. Now that we have a good sense of the purpose of all these poses, let's put these into action and start building our walk cycle.